is the nation's #1 talk. Did promise you that we'll be speaking with the special advisor to the president on policy coordination, Hadiza Bala Usman. And of course, many people are wondering what exactly is the Citizens Trackers, Citizens Delivery Tracker app. Of course, everybody's wondering what's that about. Well, the special advisor to Mr. President is joining us. She's going to educate us on how this will work, what they intend for it to achieve in the future, and of course how you and I can participate. Well, for those of you who do not know, the federal government about 6 or so days ago have updated a delivery application called Citizens Delivery Tracker as we go. Now, speaking during that Go Live launch in Abuja, the special advisor who's joining us today via Zoom from the FCT noted that this was in furtherance of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's determination to involve Nigerians in governance and to hold government accountable. Music to my ears. And it is a great pleasure to introduce to you my guest who's joining us via Zoom, Hadiza Bala Usman. Very good. Yellow is a perfect color for you. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Perfect. And I must say, you're an early bird. You came very, very early and prepared to do your job. Great. It's so good to have you join us. Most importantly, the average Nigerian wants to know what this app is about and why did you come up with this idea?
Okay. The Citizens Delivery Tracker is an application that allows for citizens to be part of governance, really. It details the deliverables of each minister, provides indicators on which basis you're going to assess your minister's performance. So really what it seeks to do is to take citizens and include them on what we're doing in government, and for citizens to be part of assessing the performance of the government in totality, because assessing the performance of the ministers, the sectoral performance, you're in totality now assessing what the government has done. So it's quite an interesting thing for government to bear itself open, meaning for government to lay bare in details exactly what it seeks to achieve. So this is really, for me, a fundamental drive with which the president has laid himself bare, literally, to say, Nigerians, come and see what I have told my minister to do. Come and see the details of the deliverables of ex-minister. And come and look at the indicators with which I am going to use to assess my minister. I want you too, as Nigerians, to assess that minister as well, so that the government is doing its own assessment and the citizens are doing their own assessment. And that is something I think is fundamental to recognize how much the president values inclusive government, how much he feels that Nigerians have given a mandate and Nigerians should work with him in ensuring that his appointees deliver on the mandate that has so been given to each one of them.
I think we need to, before we even start talking deliverables, Nigerians are going to say, well, how open is the budget in the first place for us to be able to even track what ministry, department or agency is doing in the first place, how much has been earmarked to them, and the fact that they have even swung into action, or let alone to see, oh, this is how much they've done or how far they've gone. How open is the budget to all of us? Because, of course, I remember that when I was doing a research on, this whole process of accountability, the Ministry of Budget and Planning before now used to have oversight functions, but now with this app, are you telling us that every single information about ministries, departments and agencies, including the budget and the amounts that they've been earmarked for every budget, is going to be on that app? Is that what you're telling us?
No, we have their implementations that are around policy pronouncement, programs, and implementations of policy trust. So what we have is not budget tracking. There is the budget tracking mechanism the Ministry of Budget has. The budget is available for people to view and for you to see the implementation of budget, which speaks to capital projects, which speaks to recurrent projects. But there are aspects of deliverables that are not tied to budget. For example, you have a performance that speaks to what you intend to see. For example, like a NAFDAC certification, a NAFDAC application. I'm applying to NAFDAC for to register my product, and I need for that registration to be done within X period. So that is not a budgetary component. For example, I need to look at the sanctioning of airlines that have been delaying or canceling flights. That's not a budgetary component, but these are the pain points that Nigerians feel. So the same way when you have customs service, how long does it take Nigerian customs to clear outbound cargo of agri-produce, for example? So these are things that sit in the direct line of citizens' concerns, but are not specifically tied to a budget implementation. Are not specifically tied to an expenditure head that speaks to a capital or recurrent expenditure, but it is core to our economy. It's core to the day-to-day lives of Nigerians. And that is why Mr. President identified 8 priority areas cutting across all the sectors, speaking to what is that citizens want to see their government perform for them.
Can we list out these 8 performing these 8 aspects? Because of course the average Nigerian is listening and saying, if it's not tied to the budget, okay, how do we know that our money is well spent? Why is that also not on the app? Of course, this is what the average person is thinking about. Yes, the deliverables are great. We all want to keep our eyes on the customs with the expose that we've had recently and the several customs officials that have been fingered in some sort of racketeering. Of course, people are obviously interested in that. But what are the 8 areas that people should be looking out for, please?
So the list of 8 priority areas that Mr. President has identified, which is listed on the application, it cuts across the economy. The first area of priority is the economy, which is the reforming the Nigerian economy. The second area is around boosting our agriculture. The third area is on education, health, and social inclusion. We have also an area which speaks to the security, boosting our national security. We have another priority area that talks around digitization and the creative industry on how we can expand on the base of our economy. We also have a deliverable that talks about efficiency in governance, which speaks to the totality of how we implement our work. So while there are areas that are policy positions, there are also areas that have to do with, for example, capital expenditure. When we speak to, the Nigerian police force needs to ensure the rehabilitation of colleges, of police colleges. So there is a capital expenditure component of it, of a budget. But what it speaks to is the fact that this is something that is important in the totality of the value chain, for example, on how to reform the Nigerian police force. So there are components of them that are budgetary tied, and there are components of them that are policy positions, there are components that are programs, but it just mops up what you want to see. So if you go, for example, to agri sector, we want to see the improvement in yield per hectare in rice. Okay, that yield per hectare in rice would speak to other aspects that are procurement or capital based. We also in agri, for example, we want to see an improvement on the standardization of the export of agri produce. So why are Nigerian products being not accepted internationally? For example, our beans and our sesame seed are not given consideration. So what is the issue that is not? And that is a deliverable for the Ministry of Agri. We need to ensure that our agri produce meet the international standards. So that has several layers. But at the end of the day, what the Nigerian citizen wants to see is that person that is selling beans, that is taking it to Europe, wants the European countries to accept their beans. And the government needs to go back, whether it's a capital project requirement, a recurrent project, but ensure that is done and that is delivered for the Nigerian. And the Citizen Delivery Tracker would allow you as in this sector to now assess and say, by the way, Ministry of Agri has not met this deliverable on ensuring that Nigerians' agri produce are accepted. My sesame seeds are not accepted in Europe, and this is what has been said specific to that. So we're very mindful of things that are specific to what people do and making it very granular and very citizen-centric. So within the component of the larger scope of things, you'll be able to find a capital project, a recurrent project, but what matters to the average person is not what you do in terms of your own activity, is how does that affect me and enable me live a better life as a Nigerian, enable me improve my day-to-day as it speaks to healthcare, as it speaks to education, as it speaks to security. Just to give you an example in healthcare, one of the things we included is waiting time to see the doctor in federal medical hospitals. So these are the types of indicators that are globally recognized. So for example, in NHS, you say, how long does it take for a doctor to see a patient? So we've now also reduced in Nigeria, how long does it take a patient to see a doctor in our medical centers? Just to give you an example of the type of granular things we're looking at. At the same time, we also have rehabilitation of the hospitals themselves, but to the detail that you feel when you go to the hospital.
Yeah. For me, these are, if you ask me, it's novel. But then, like you said, there's so many layers to it. And for the average Nigerian, for example, let's take the healthcare sector. When I was a young girl, for every, let's say, few meters in every community, you'd find a primary health post. We don't have those things anymore. They've disappeared. And so it's forcing everybody to go to the Federal Medical Center, to the general hospitals, which is also putting pressure on those doctors, because we have killed our primary health care. So whether we like it or not, we can't start from the top to deal with the issue. There has to be a bottom-up
So
approach.
it's interesting you raised that, because what we did in addition is to see what is the issue with having medical personnel in rural hospitals, in primary healthcare. Why do we not have personnel manning our primary healthcare? So we looked to see, how do you incentivize? What is the incentive you need to give medical personnel to enable them work in rural communities? And we put that amongst the key KPIs for Ministry of Health. We had discussions with them, and they've started to work on what sort of incentive do we need to provide for rural healthcare personnel. And with conjunction of the state governments, we're now working, the Ministry of Health, as you know, the primary healthcare centers are under the state government,
Yes.
but the federal government has a role. But what the federal government is doing now is coming up with incentives that would allow for healthcare personnel to work in the rural areas. So if you are working in the center of Abuja, you'll not get that allowance for somebody that's working in the rural primary healthcare centers. We feel that attracting healthcare personnel to those rural PHCs, that is where you can improve. So as you mentioned, healthcare is grounds up, education is grounds up. So we need to work from the bottom up to see what we need to do. So these are the type of things that we'll put in the application, and it's bottoms up, and we want Nigerians to go and comment and say, oh, we have not seen, where is this incentive Nigerian government has said they'll provide to attract doctors, healthcare personnel to go to rural community? Where is that incentive? Let me see it, and let me know that in my PHC, we have a nurse there that is coming to the PHC because she's receiving a rural allowance for her to be there. So it's the same way we're also working to see the value chain in healthcare. How do we make it possible for Nigeria to produce things locally? How do we compel Nigerians to promote and support indigenous productions of gloves, of syringes for using them? So we must make sure that we recognize there's a value chain that exists, the standardization is correct, and compel our own users to patronize and do it. But it's a whole value chain that the president has directed. There's a presidential committee on it, and you see it on the app when you go to healthcare, where there's a presidential committee that is tasked with exploring that. So we're really being very granular, and in coming up with this, we engage with citizens extensively to see what your issue is across the sectors and see how we can tie it to what a minister needs to do in that sector.
I want to talk about the technology of that app, but before I go to that, I want to take you on another sector. Let's talk about NAFDAC, which also a little bit falls under standards organizations and, of course, health.
Yes.
Yes. There are cases where, in fact, whether we like it or not, Nigeria has been flooded with all kinds of fake products, some of them bearing the names of the original ones, and sometimes it's very difficult for you to tell the difference because it might just be a letter that's changed. Is there a place to report some of these, fake or under... I don't know. Is there a page where we can take pictures and say, well, this drug is supposed to be,
Yes.
is not supposed to be on the shelves, or this particular fruit, whatever it is? Is there a place for that to happen on the app?
Yes. So what we've done is with NAFDAC, we have done, the issue you raised is one of them, but importantly, we have provided specific targets and timelines for NAFDAC. So at what point are you going to ensure that all such medications are having a verification code? So they have classification. X type of medications currently have verification codes. So at what point would you ensure all the categories of medication and all the categories of products that are used have a system where you can verify their code? You see some have them now and some do not have. So it's not every drug that you see you can scratch and send that code and they'll revert back to you. So what we did is to put for NAFDAC, how long before you cover all these categories of drugs to enable us know what form of sanctioning and I'll say how many people have been prosecuted. So one of the things that we also seek to do is, okay, NAFDAC, when you get these people that have done fake Coca-Cola or fake this, what happens to them? Are they prosecuted to the end? Are they jailed? Because that is what people need to go through to enable them stop. What manner of sanctioning and prosecution exists for areas where people counterfeiting of drugs, counterfeiting of products? And one of the things that they said to us was that, oh, we do not prosecute. So I said, who prosecutes? And that prosecution needs to be on that person's deliverable, because if all you do is apprehend, there must be the next leg of prosecuting and jailing people for counterfeiting drugs, counterfeiting products. That is, consequence management is important for so long as people are not, face the consequences of bad behavior, the bad behavior will continue, and we'll continue to see that. So we've done this for NAFDAC to expand on this, and we have also compelled them when it comes to registration. I remember when we raised the issue with NAFDAC, there was a bit of a pushback regarding the timeline, and I said, NAFDAC needs to do this, because for every one of us in our daily lives, I was at a food farmers market in Lagos, and I was buying honey and all of that, and the ladies kept referencing that, oh, we don't have NAFDAC registration because we've been on it for 1 year. We don't have NAFDAC registration because we've been on it for. So these are the type of things that all of us face on our day-to-day lives, and all of us now must come together to compel agencies of government to ensure they do what they're required to do. And hearing from citizens will now confirm to us, it's not just us assessing ourselves, because indeed, internally, we would assess and say, oh, have you delivered? But we want citizens to also say, no, I know when I went to Ogun, the people there in so factory were unable to get NAFDAC registration for 5 years. And you put the address of the place, and then we'll be able to take NAFDAC on ensuring that those certifications are provided.
Let's talk about the technology of the app. I've got about 5 to 6 minutes to get your responses on all my questions before we bring Lagosians in. Let's talk about the app. How upgraded is the technology? Because you see, I'm sorry, and I'm guessing I'm speaking for many Nigerians, there are lots of things that governments before now and even this present government have introduced, and they really don't last. So what's the guarantee that this app will not be revived every now and again because it has collapsed like our national grid?
Not at all. So just to ensure sustainability is that if you can see that we reference the app as an upgrade, so it's not a new application. It was we inherited it from the last regime. What we sought to do was to improve on it in terms of the content, the deliverables, and the KPIs, and sit it around what is expected of this this cabinet. So we are conscious of the fact that sustainability governance is a continuum. We're not going to start another app, abandon an app, and continue, doing all manners of ad hoc applications. But this is what we inherited, and we will continue to use it, and we'll continue to upgrade. As you know, with digital applications, you need to continue constantly updating and ensuring that it meets up to the standards required. Also, in terms of content, we need to improve. So in my submission, when we went live with the application, I spoke to the fact that if you have any additional deliverables or KPIs that are citizen-centered and you feel we have not captured them, please feel free to write us and request for it, because nobody has monopoly of knowledge. The more you engage with citizens, the more you realize their pain points. So we are listening, we're very inclusive, and we look forward to receiving additional areas where we may have had a blind spot and not seen it. So we look forward to receiving those as well. But indeed, technologies are not things that we abandon, but we upgrade and continue to engage and ensure that the necessary service is provided and Nigerians have the input needed for governance.
What's the turnaround time like? Because I don't want to be wasting my data or becoming a reporter for the government. Of course, I'm also doing myself some good if I make sure that I keep these people accountable. But I don't want to waste my time and just keep posting and reporting, and I don't see any responses or a change in the policy or the system in itself. What's the turnaround time for these reports?
Okay, so one of the things that we need to clarify about the delivery tracker is that you're required to assess the ministers in terms of what they've done, and the ministries, importantly, the ministries in totality, to say this thing has not been done. So we would respond within 24 hours. But what it is that the delivery tracker is to do an assessment so that we collate what you've said, and we now submit it to the president that the citizens have said this about your healthcare sector. This is what the citizens have said, and these are the areas, and they've assessed the minister and they've scored him X% on his performance across these deliverables. So what it seeks to do is to provide citizens with accountability in terms of calling government out. But on the day-to-day response on issues to say, oh, this has been resolved, this has not been resolved, is something that we are working to see how effective that will be. But primarily the citizen tracker is for you to say, X sector has not performed and we've scored them 5%. X sector has performed and we've scored them 70% based on the mandate that has been given to them.
Will we see people, face the chopping board of sorts? If I mean, it's a worthy question, isn't it? If
Yes.
I see that this ministry, this department, this agency has been on the low and low for long, are we going to see
Yes.
someone get chopped off so that they
So
can
that
bring
is the
someone who would do a better job? I'm just
So,
thinking.
so that is the reason why Mr. President is so keen on having this. That's why he wants to be able to see empirically who is performing. And historically, sometimes we have an assessment that is not based on data, that is not driven by clear performance, clear indicators, which is why we have now introduced this assessment system that is based on global standards. So you'll be able to see, oh, your yield per hectare for rice, you'll be able to see your yield utilization of fertilizer, you'll be able to see things that we use empirical data to guide. So if you say as a government, oh, I have been able to move yield per hectare in rice in Kaduna, citizens will say, no, my farm's yield per hectare is not this. And it will be clear. So Mr. President is using it to facilitate for his own assessment to see at the end of the day, he's the person that has been elected. He has a contract with citizens to enable him to deliver. So he's not going to allow any one of us, his appointees, to stand in the way for him to deliver. If you're unable to perform and he has empirical data which supports your inability to perform, having given you the necessary support, the necessary funding to deliver, and you haven't, then you'll have to excuse him for him to bring someone else. So all of us that are his appointees are conscious of the fact that he has been the one that has the contract with citizens. So we are all there to support him. And if we're unable to carry our weight and deliver based on what he has given, then we would have to excuse him for him to bring other people that will perform. So really, it's about him delivering, and he consciously recognizes, Mr. President, that he has a contract with Nigerians and he's here to perform for Nigerians, and nothing will stand in the way of him delivering on the renewed hope agenda that he has clearly spelled out within his KPIs and deliverables.
This question's for you before we go on a break directly. Does that mean that you're also on the chopping board in case you're not delivering in this office?
Yes, we're all political appointees. So if I'm not delivering on doing an empirical assessment of ministers, then I would also have to excuse the president, because what matters to him is for him to deliver. He's not here. He has engaged Nigerians. He said this is what he intends to do. And for so long as he's given us all the necessary support, funding, and enable access to deliver on it, and we're not able to, we would have to, and we have no choice but to step down and allow him to hire people that will be able to deliver for him.
In case you're just joining us, the program is Hard Facts. On the Big Hard Facts today, we've been talking with Hadiza Bala Usman. For those of you who do not know, we're talking about the Citizens Delivery app. It's an application where you, as a Nigerian, can check what ministries, departments, and agencies are doing, and every form of promise and deliverables that have not necessarily been met. You do have an opportunity, according to her, to, rate them, and in those ratings, Mr. President will be able to say, well, the ministry is doing right or not doing right, and then okay, maybe I have to keep you aside and get, or up the ante for whatever they need to do. Well, we're talking about the Citizens Delivery Tracker app, and I want to go on a quick break. When we come back, Lagos, I want you to join the conversation. If you're listening and watching us, I beg your pardon, live from outside of the country, please, by all means, join the conversation. We're on Skype, on Nigeria Info FM via Skype. I know Nigerians in diaspora are also interested in what happens in Nigeria, because we're one way or another, whatever happens within this country rubs off on us one way or another outside of the country. And we do have family members in this country also. And for those of you who are watching us live, we're on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM 99.3. We're also live on Facebook, facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. And you can join the conversation also on WhatsApp. Drop a message. But when we come back, the phone lines will be open. 60 seconds is all you have. Go straight to the point. Ask your question so that she can answer. We'll be right back after these messages. I am Maryann-Duke Okon, and the program is Hard Facts. This is the nation's #1 talk, news, and sports radio station, 99.3, Nigeria Info.
Then say health now wealth, but when person they arrange in health, can't lose one hand, one leg. Yeah, been when you dey hospital, they can tell you say you must drop heavy money first before they even think of to begin any treatment. Yeah.
But when Avon HMO Tandagidiba with you, you know go they shout yekba, cause last, now all of us need people. Visit avonhealthcare.com now to get Avon Health Plan for you and your people.
Avon HMO, empowering you to live a healthier, fuller life. Here's an amazing opportunity for your child to win 1 million naira, laptop, 1 year free data, cool hoodie, and other exciting prizes in the System Specs 2024 Children's Day essay competition. The competition is open to children aged 9 to 16, and the essay topic is protecting the Nigerian child from the dangers of online technology. Hurry now to bit.ly/2024 essay for more information. Entry closes on April 19th, 2024.
Madam, you don't try this new Lush Hair 4-in-1 no lie relaxer kit. We get free neutralizing shampoo and conditioner join.
What? Me, I know deal.
You not even sabi wetin dey happen for town. You see this Lush Hair relaxer so?
E no dey pepper, e no dey burn. E go even make your hair shine like oil.
Na so, Lush Hair relaxer kit na correct. We no go make your hair cut. We no go make your hair dry. E no dey pepper and e dey relax hair well. Simply time. Come buy your own.
Lush Hair. Be beautiful.
Mommy, my teacher said 90% of my brain will develop by the time I am 5.
Really? What else did she say?
She said I need iron in my food for my brain to grow well.
Oh, very true. And that's why I give you Cerelac Junior every day, which provides half of your daily iron needs.
And Cerelac Junior tastes so good.
Cerelac Junior with Iron Plus. It's all good, Mom.
Every parent wants to see their child growing up happy and healthy. Introducing Renzo Vitamins for Kids, a secret to your child's daily nutrition and boundless joy. With Renzo Vitamins, your child will have the energy to embrace every moment and unlock their full potential. Give your child a head start in life with Renzo Vitamins for Kids, because a happy child is a healthy child.
Renzos!
Every morning, na better chance to carry your hustle go higher level. So, make you start your day with the correct taste of Nescafe. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
In Nigeria, the weather can change in an instant, just like life itself. Even when you are caught in a heavy downpour or harmattan has left your skin dry, there's one thing that never changes: the restoring power of Vaseline Petroleum Jelly. Because we all know when harmattan strikes, if you are not protecting your skin, it cracks. So do your lips, and no one wants that. So, use Vaseline Petroleum Jelly to keep your skin healthy, smooth, moisturized, and protected all day long, so you can embrace every season with confidence.
Papa landlord, good morning, no.
Good morning, sir.
Mama T, Fifi, you're visiting us today?
Yes, sir. So Fifi needs to braid her hair, and no one does it better than Janet.
She's inside, but Janet is not feeling well right now. She has tetanus infection, and the very painful part is the doctor said it could have been avoided if she had received her booster vaccines on time.
That's very true. There is even HPV vaccine for girls of her age between 9 to 14 years old.
Uncle Landlord, even you, there are vaccines for adults like COVID, hepatitis, yellow fever.
It's okay, that's enough. But Baba Landlord, she's right. You should not play with vaccinations. It is very risky not to be taking vaccines and boosters, especially for you who is diabetic, or Janet who is a young girl. Follow who no road though.
All vaccines are safe for both children and adults. Visit a health facility to find out which vaccines you need, or call 7722 for more information.
Are you ready to elevate your Ramadan experience? Well, brace yourselves, because Electromat has an irresistible offer just for you. From March 15th to April 20th, Electromat is here to make your Ramadan preparations a breeze. Buy any home appliances and receive instant gift: rice, oil, semolina, noodles, seasonings, and much more. Ready to take advantage of this amazing offer? Visit the nearest Electromat store or head to our website on www.electromat.com.ng now and start shopping. Stay tuned for more exciting offers only from Electromat, your world of electronics. Terms and conditions apply.
Here's an amazing opportunity for your child to win 1 million naira, laptop, 1 year free data, cool hoodie, and other exciting prizes in the System Specs 2024 Children's Day essay competition. The competition is open to children aged 9 to 16, and the essay topic is protecting the Nigerian child from the dangers of online technology. Hurry now to bit.ly/2024 essay for more information. Entry closes on April 19th, 2024. Who says you can't have it all with one play?
I got that defined, but you have
just won yourself
20,000!
Hello, good morning.
Yes, Melitus. One player don't talk to two players because you won 20K.
So now you won yourself 20,000 naira. My name is Well Done. Okay, well done. You want to tell you well done? You won yourself 20,000 naira.
With 500 naira, you can play to win big from 120,000 naira to 190,000 naira daily on Nigeria Info. Go to oneplay.ng and play with 500 naira. And in a few seconds, your ticket is in the draw. Or dial *347*880*3#. Win daily on Nigeria Info. 50,000 naira on Morning Crossfire. 60,000 naira on WhatsApp Lagos. 20,000 naira on Sunnyside. And 60,000 naira on Game On. So Lagos, what are you waiting for? The more you play, the better your chances of winning. Remember to dial *347*880*3#. Play responsibly. Not suitable for persons under the age of 18.
Health, they say, is wealth. But when securing good health costs you an arm and a leg, or when you are at the hospital and they insist on a hefty deposit before treatment,
but when Avon HMO has your back, you won't have to scream, Yekba, because in the end, we all need people. Visit avonhealthcare.com now to get an Avon health plan for you and your people.
Avon HMO, empowering you to live a healthier, fuller life.
Enjoy the delicious creamy goodness of Cowbell. Cowbell contains Vitarich and vitamin B9, which supports brain development. Use Cowbell in your tea, cereal, pap, and other meals of choice. Cowbell, so creamy, so good.
Madam, you don't try this new Lush Hair 4-in-1 no lie relaxer kit. We get free neutralizing shampoo and conditioner join.
What? Me, I know deal.
You not even sabi wetin dey happen for town. You see this Lush Hair relaxer so?
E no dey pepper, e no dey burn. E go even make your hair shine like oil.
Na so, Lush Hair relaxer kit na correct. We no go make your hair cut. We no go make your hair dry. E no dey pepper and e dey relax hair well. Shikimita. Come buy your own.
Lush Hair, be beautiful.
On the Morning Crossfire with me, Kofi Bartels. You have the big names, the most pressing issues, and the sharpest conversations.
We must leave that place of talking into the space of doing.
Nothing that's paying through their nose, and you are telling them after training they can't migrate. I will not be part of those who will give soft landing to these guys who are running the affairs of this country.
People are dying every day in an hour. People just go in and come out and read out stories to us. Come on, Kofi.
We must step beyond the talk. We have the analysis. Join us as we dissect the headlines, bring you exclusive interviews, and dive deep into the heart of the matter. The big conversations live here.
Join Kofi Bartels on the Morning Crossfire, weekdays 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. only on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
health, they say, is wealth. But when securing good health costs you an arm and a leg, or when you are at the hospital and they insist on a hefty deposit before treatment,
But when Avon HMO has your back, you won't have to scream, Yekba, because in the end, we all need people. Visit avonhealthcare.com now to get an Avon health plan for you and your people.
Avon HMO, empowering you to live a healthier, fuller life.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
Your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
There's a reason why over 1 million people tune into Hard Facts every day. We discuss in-depth stories with sources behind the facts.
The Lagos State High Court
Sitting
has convicted suspended Assist Chicago certificate stories never going away, is it? Show with stories for the day.
You hear diverse voices and opinions.
Husband was not a magician, and she was meeting campaign with her husband, knowing that.
You should not put happy because there is nothing to happy about.
Yeah, it's quite pathetic the way the country is going.
We distinguish each story accurately with analysis.
It's Hard Facts with Maryann-Duke Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
All right, we're back. We've got 15 minutes to take all your thoughts and your comments. So, Lagos, the phone lines are open. Don't forget, you have 60 seconds. Go straight to the point. Ask your questions so that we can have the essay speak to those points. But first and foremost, we're still being joined by Hadiza Bala Usman. For those of you who do not know, she is the essay to Mr. President. For those of you who have been wondering what department is this, what agency is this, we don't know about it. Does it exist? In fact, somebody sent a message to say, well, apparently, if this app has been in existence under the former administration, it means that the former administration failed woefully, because no one was able to track anything. No one knew its existence. Maybe a few people, but for the want of a better way to describe it, it was a failed app up until now that it has been re-unveiled. But anyway, for those of you who are joining the conversation, we're talking about the Citizens Delivery Tracker app, and this was unveiled a few days ago by Mr. President. And we are looking at what this app is for, how it can help us to bring some form of or level of accountability for our public office holders. If you have questions, comments, join the conversation. We're live on YouTube and on Facebook, Nigeria Info FM 99.3. You could join the conversation if you are listening to us on our mobile application from outside of the country. Join us via Skype. It's Nigeria Info FM. All right, let me start with the phone lines. Hello. Welcome to Hard Facts. Turn off your radio, please.
Hello.
Turn off your radio. Okay, call me back when you're ready. I'm not going to waste time because we don't have too much of it. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Hi, Maryann. This is Mrs. Oboli calling from Nikorodu.
Go ahead.
Okay, a tracker app. Really, I heard her mention, first and foremost, how many people have we, even without a tracker app, it's evident that there are some people that are not really performing, and it's evident. I don't really think we need a tracker app. Okay, now that the tracker app is here, how many people have been prosecuted if eventually this tracker app, we are meant to report who will be prosecuted, who will be taken in? Then she mentioned something about security. She didn't expatiate on it. I was thinking something about security concerning this tracker app is because that is the main issue that this country is facing now.
Okay.
I really want her to shed light on it.
All right, thank you very much. I'll take another call. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts. Yes.
Yeah, this is Remy.
Remy, go ahead. Yeah.
How can I take this government serious when presently they have over 400 names given to us on a platter of gold, terrorism sponsors, and they're here to act on it? Two, how can I take them serious when Shoyombo with revelations about customs went on different platforms to show the evidence, and they're here to act on it? And you want me to believe an app will make a change when they're here to act on when someone gave them visible evidence?
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Yemi, for your question. Actually, I'm going to let you answer those first two questions, and then we'll bombard you with more. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mary. The first caller spoke about security, and security is, in fact, Mr. President's second priority. So strengthening national security is number 2 priority. So he's very clear that it's an important and integral part of it. And when you look into the application of the security, you're going to see respective aspects that speak to what will deliver. And Ministry of Police Affairs has the details of what is required. Ministry of Defense has the details speaking to the issue of abduction, speaking the issue of terrorism, details of how many terrorism cases have been addressed, the issues. So security is his number 2 priority following reforming the economy. So without a doubt, there is clarity on the fact that security is important, and that is being addressed. We can see today 22 people that were abducted in Zamfara have been released and have been handed over to just shortly. So this is something that Mr. President is very clear on. You spoke about evidently some people are not performing. So what we want to do is to use empirical data to guide it, as opposed to it being an emotional position that, oh, this person is not working. Because as we know, some people have the capacity for having glitterati social media and presence without actually speaking to the content of the work. So we want to be able to see, oh, how much have you done? Based on data that we've gotten from National Bureau of Statistics, how much has the needle moved in actual numbers in that sector, as opposed to it being a sentimental thing, which is why we're using, as I keep repeating, empirical data to guide the basis to assess the performance of the minister. So I encourage everybody to also use data to say, oh, this has not moved. That has not been done. You said you're going to rehabilitate 4 colleges. You've only rehabilitated 2. This is the picture I've seen. You said you're going to increase enrollment. This is the number of enrollment. It has not increased.
Okay.
And then the next issue is about clear evidence of, for example, custom allegations and terrorism that have been provided. When such allegations are made or there is evidence of this, there's a panel that is usually set up to investigate and validate such submissions or such investigations. So I believe Nigerian Customs is doing that, and having it been an issue that has been so submitted by a citizen, will take it up to ask, okay, what is the outcome of your own investigation arising from the incidents where there was a clear expose on what is going on within the customs service. And as I repeat, the issue of terrorism is the front burner for Mr. President, as we've all seen, and we continue to track our security agencies to see that they've performed. And which is why when you talk about how many abductions have been done, how long did it take for you to release them, how many people have you prosecuted for such type of crime? So this is what we're working to do.
Great. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Yeah, good evening, Maryann.
Good evening.
And my name is Apush, and your guest, Hadiza Usman.
All right, go ahead. Quickly, you have 60 seconds.
Interesting and great to hear of this data delivery tracker, right?
Mm-hmm.
So good. My own might not be questioned. You know, let me start from here. It might be appeal to your guest.
Okay.
The special advisor to President Bala Usman. I want him to, on this custom clearing duties, I mean, importation duties, is so high. Please, your guest, Usman, Hadiza Usman, deliver this message. Like I myself is hindering my business. You know?
Okay.
Before we used to clear container with 3 million. Now it's 32, 35 million, as the case may be.
Wow.
It's so high. Please deliver this to Mr. President. He's hindering some business
All right.
here.
Thank you very
making
much.
Some inflation to get down.
All right.
You know?
Thank you very much, Rapper, for calling. 60 seconds is the amount of time that we're giving to you because we want to take as many questions. Hello.
Finally. Hi, Mimi. This is Florence.
Hi.
Okay, so my question to her, I listened to a couple of her comments. I joined a bit late, but I have a concern. So, from my experience, I know that statistical analysis without reliable data quality is actually always has the vision undermined. So, my question to her is, considering the fact that we don't have a reliable data source for Nigeria, how are you going to validate these responses you get? Because we know clearly that AI can actually give you unverified responses. I've been in political rallies where we see political contestants or aspirants planting people to ask them questions just to get, they select those ones just to get those responses. So when it comes to AI in Nigeria, you can actually have an account on Instagram, Mimi, and someone else there are people who do this as a business.
Yeah.
They can give you 1,000 responses, positive responses.
So fake responses or fake hacking the app, in favor of a ministry.
In terms of who these citizens are, who are those actually contributing quality responses. We have no data as
all right.
Citizenship. So who are those? What security measures does she have to ensure we are getting verified responses?
All right. Thank you, Florence. I say this is a very important question because we live in a day and an age where bank apps are being hacked. Well, INEC has been hacked, as we hear, reportedly. And several things, anything can happen. Just as she said, how do you guard against, what are the firewall mechanisms that have been put in place to stop this from happening? Because if I can pay some white hat, hacker to give me very many responses, fake responses to make me look good, I mean, what's stopping every other person from doing that?
Yeah, so it's also not a popularity type of assessment. It's not how many people want to see positive things about you on the application. So it's specific to, for example, you say, we have an increase in crude oil production. Nigeria is now producing X million barrels a day. So it's either the barrels are there or they're not. So it doesn't matter if 1,000 people come and say we're producing 3 million barrels. the data would show that it's not a function of how many people come and say, oh, Hadiza is doing good, Hadiza is doing good on the application. No, it's a function to say, has Hadiza done this? Have we seen a commensurate increase in crude production? Have we seen a commensurate increase in gas production in the country? And the data for baseline is 1.2 million barrels for Nigeria, and how much has Nigeria moved the needle in getting to an additional amount of data. So it's really not how many people say positive things about you. It's specifically tied to issues. So how many international passports have been processed in this quarter? What is the turnaround time for your application for your international passport? What is the turnaround time for your visa on arrival? Is it 24 hours? Is it 48 hours? So it's not a popularity thing that you get people to vote for you and you be seen to be working, but speaking to the fact that this is data-driven and empirical data, which is why I mentioned Nigerian Bureau for Statistics, and we're going to strengthen and have reliable data to guide our data integrity and data protection. So which is why we would look at what we have. Nigerian Bureau for Statistics will have its own. Citizens will say there, so we're able to now look at it and say, oh, it's a data-driven thing. So it doesn't matter if you hire 1 million catfish accounts to keep saying you're doing good, you're doing good. No, if it shows that there is no, there are no doctors in the hospital, there are no teachers in the school, the medical facility has not been rehabilitated, NAFDAC is taking 1 year to give application. Even if 1 million people say NAFDAC is doing well, the fact that it's evident that there's no traction, it takes a few years for you to get to apply. So that is really what we seek to do to address that. On the issue of appealing, we raised this with the Honourable Minister of Finance, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, regarding the high cost of duty on clearing of cargo, so that that can be addressed. It may be linked to the issue of the foreign exchange, as it were, but this is something that we'll have to ask them to clarify why that is and convey Mr. President's to you, to Mr. President the concerns. And as I keep referencing, Mr. President is very keen. He actually asks to say, what are citizens saying about this? So he's a very passionate, inclusive president that wants to hear what citizens are saying.
Okay. All right. We've got a few more calls. I can take one quick call and then, of course, read messages. Hello.
Yeah, good evening, Maryann.
Good evening. You have 60 seconds, please.
Yes, good evening to your guest.
Yes.
This is Pastor Ladipo calling from Orile Gomo.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
My question to your guest is this. Knowing fully well that most of the appointees are career politicians, and we know that they can, though he has answered part of that question, do they have to tie some of their performance to project performance? If the answer is yes, there is already an independent institution that has been tracking a lot of projects from different ministries. Are they looking into that private independent trackers that have been doing this?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Esther, would you like to respond quickly?
Okay, we would love to see the this independent, private driven, maybe citizen driven tracker, so that we can see what they have. I'm not aware of it. I'm aware of a tracker that Ministry of Budget has, which tracks the budget deployment across capital projects. That is government owned, but of course we're keen to have citizens track and would like to know about that detail, and we'll follow this application to see where we can also enhance on our own oversight and enhance our own performance delivery. So that's something that we would love to have. So if you can provide us with the details.
All right, I have just about 2 minutes on the clock. So let me go to social media and read some of the messages that people are sending so that they get involved. Someone is saying, good evening to the SA and Maryann. We appreciate the efforts of the Ministry of Internal Affairs with regards to the passport. Why is the total charge $165 as against $130 as advertised, plus additional $30 being charged as admin fee by Nigerian embassies in New York? He's talking about a hidden charge. He says, where applicants are made to pay this monies upon capture. This is aside buying postage envelopes nearby. Is it not deceit on students and other applicants? This is from Ugo. Maybe that will be the only question I can ask you to answer.
Okay, thank you for that. This is very useful information. We're going to raise it to the Ministry of Interior to provide clarification on why there's a variance between what has been so announced as the fee and the actual amount that people are made to pay. Looking at the admin fee you said, and also having foreign missions have an additional charge. And that's important. Thank you very much for that feedback. And we'll definitely get the clarification from Ministry of Interior.
Okay. I think I can take one more reaction. This one says, please kindly ask your guests why the Nigerian government security agencies do not employ the use of forensics for crime investigation. That's science. We can start with something as simple as gathering fingerprints from a crime scene.
Maryann, I lost you. So sorry.
Okay, so someone is asking about security agencies, why they don't use forensics. But I have just 50 seconds for you to respond to that. I don't even think you're the right person for the job.
They're using forensic. They've started using that. They've always been the center for. There's always been the utilization of the forensic. To what extent is it available across the whole police deployments in the country is something that we need to clarify. But indeed, Nigerian Police Force has an element of forensic within their operations. They do.
Well, I want to say thank you because we're almost out of time. Thank you so much, SA, for coming on the show. I know how I kept dragging for you to come on the show, even when you were on your Salah holiday. But our guest has been Hadiza Bala Usman. She is a special advisor to Mr. President on policy coordination. Thank you very much for speaking to Nigerians and, of course, educating us on the importance of this app. We're hoping that whenever we call on you, you'd be glad to come back.
We would be glad. I'll be available to come on. Citizens are important. And what matters is day to day on our existence. We also see things that we want to raise. So feel free to reach out. I'll be available. Thank you so much, Maryann. It's been a nice outing. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much
for
coming.
Take care.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
All right. Well, Lagos, that's it on this conversation. Once again, we want to say thank you to Hadiza Bala Usman, who's a special advisor to the President on policy coordination. When we come back from the break, I'll be saying my proper goodbyes on Hard Facts today. Stay with us.
Credible journalism, bridging the gap between people.
E-Trading Hedge Summit, holding this Thursday, 18th of April, 2024, at 14 Etoile Avenue, Oregon, Lagos, 10 a.m. prompt. To register, text Lagos to 091-6670-4000. To register, text Lagos to 091-6670-4000. My name is Godwin Asuquo, and I'm here to tell you how to leverage the global financial market as an extra source of income. Now, forget about leaving your day job. In this current economy, you need to have multiple businesses giving you multiple income streams. So the objective is to add to your income, and the easiest way to do that is automation. Automation requires little to no interference from you. You can build wealth while you keep your current income source. With automated trading, imagine making money from currencies, commodities, even stocks, all without constant monitoring. Curious about how this works? Now, there are two ways you can earn on the financial market. You can either trade yourself, learn the market, and speed the process with a mentor's guidance, or you can use automated systems to handle the trades for you. Automated trading systems utilize computer programs to follow an investment strategy